back. I was like, okay, definitely not any interviews from him at the moment. Just contemplating what could have been, I think, Oscar Piastri there. Oh, and there's a big shunt. There's contact between Albon and Colapinto. Colapinto sent spinning at turn 5, turn 6. And has continued on as Franco Colapinto. But a big shunt between the two of them. Albon catching the rear end of Colapinto. And Colapinto sent spinning by Alex Albon. Oof. Wait, what's happening to Lewis? Hamilton just nearly caught the wall at turn 7, so lost like a second and a half in 9th place there. So it's now off the back of Leclerc and Norris by a considerable margin. But let's have a little look at this again. So coming through turn 3, turn 4, looks all good. Down towards turn 5, Albon just tries to go for a gap that doesn't really exist. Up the inside of Colapinto. I don't think there's a gap there for Albon to go through. Albon then clipping the rear wing onto Colapinto's rear left tyre. Damage to Alex Albon's front wing. The front wing end plate on the right-hand side of that Williams car now gone. But then Colapinto sent spinning and actually just nestles himself into the barriers between turn 5 and turn 6. All a little bit clumsy from Alex Albon there, it has to be said. And I'm sure that will be under investigation in one way or another. I mean, both of them running around in 18th and 19th place, but that could have been, you know, the safety car or the red flag that we're expecting to see at some point. There's been one safety car so far. Still no swap between Antonelli and Russell, has to be said. Antonelli just 4th place there. And not been able to get past Liam Lawson at all as of yet. George Russell, 5th place at the moment as well. And yellow flag, track hazard. Is it that debris that came off Alex Albon's car? I think it might be. As we see Kimi Antonelli pit. There you go. George Russell doesn't have to wait to get past his teammate. Antonelli opens the door for him. 19 laps of the Grand Prix completed. Antonelli, 2.7 second stop. Mercedes must have seen a little gap to get him back out into. I think it's just behind Fernando Alonso. Crucially, a little bit of clean air behind the Aston Martin, at least for a few laps. Antonelli then... yeah, a couple of seconds of clean air for Kimi Antonelli now. It's actually a really good decision, in my opinion, from Mercedes there. Move Antonelli out of the way of Russell, allow Russell to continue on and maybe fight with Liam Lawson, and then also get the possibility of Kimi Antonelli running in clean air and getting the jump on Liam Lawson in the pit stops. The undercut at play there for Kimi Antonelli. Incident involving Albon and Colapinto is now under investigation. Alonso and Piastri, of course, already with 5-second penalties throughout this race. Hülkenberg and Ocon was deemed a racing incident and was given no penalty. Here we are then. Can we see George Russell actually get ahead of Liam Lawson? It was not capable of Kimi Antonelli. He wasn't able to get it. But George Russell seemed to be the quicker of the two Mercedes cars, although that was a few laps ago now. George Russell spent a little while stuck behind his teammate and in this little DRS train behind Liam Lawson. Has to be said that Liam Lawson is 5 seconds adrift of second place Carlos Sainz. It is looking incredibly good if you are a Max Verstappen or Carlos Sainz fan, because Verstappen now leads by 5 seconds. Anna's just set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. And then Carlos Sainz has a 5-second gap to third place behind him. Charles Leclerc comes into the pits for Ferrari. And I think they're going to try and do the same thing that Kimi Antonelli has done and sort of find that gap between Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. Charles Leclerc then comes towards the end of the pit lane. Kimi Antonelli makes his way past. And yeah, it's going to be really nice for Charles Leclerc there, surely. Just going to have a lovely bit of clean air to run into behind the Italian, in the Italian car. Trying to jump Yuki Tsunoda, who's on that harder tyre. Lando Norris continues on, though, is not going to be able to get the undercut on Charles Leclerc. So McLaren possibly going for a slightly different. Oh, and there is a 10-second time penalty for Alex Albon causing a collision. So a 10-second penalty for Albon. That's pretty much ruined his race, and that's going to be the end of that for Alex Albon. Shirley. Don't call me Shirley. Piastri out. Piastri is indeed out. Crashed on the first lap of the Grand Prix from 20th place, or 19th place it would have been at that moment. Kimi Antonelli looking at the likelihood of jumping Liam Lawson in the pit stops. Needs to gain about a second or so on Liam Lawson. George Russell could help out his teammate here by causing Liam Lawson a bit of a headache and costing him a couple attempts or so. But no, Liam Lawson boxes to cover off Kimi Antonelli. Surely needs to be a good stop from the RB team, though, here. Kimi Antonelli just coming down towards turn 20. And Liam Lawson approaching the pits now. Liam Lawson is in. Kimi Antonelli. Oh, he's going to come right. It's going to be very tight indeed. Antonelli's done very, very well in that clean air. Antonelli absolutely rattling down. Here comes Kimi Antonelli around turn 1, and Liam Lawson, oh my goodness, just about ahead. And surely this is Antonelli's opportunity. He's got slightly warmer tyres than Liam Lawson. Down towards turn 3, Lawson actually has to weave to get a bit of temperature into those tyres, and Antonelli not able to make the move down towards turn 3. But Liam Lawson is going to still be under pressure down towards turn 1. It's going to be a real battle between these two all the way around this next lap. George Russell has been released into 3rd place as well. But Lawson just about hangs on to that position in front of Kimi Antonelli. He's come out in 10th place behind Fernando Alonso. And Antonelli really did go for it. You can see Antonelli, fastest lap of anybody, was clearly given the go-ahead by the Mercedes team to just absolutely rinse those hard tyres as soon as they were up to temperature to try and get that jump on Lawson. And it was a 10th or 2 either way. And Antonelli would have been ahead of the New Zealand driver. But Liam Lawson ahead still. They come down towards turn 16 together. Let's watch them go down towards turn 1, I think, because Liam Lawson is going to be right under pressure. Again, this is for the effective podium places. They're running in 11th and 10th right now. But they know that this is really for 3rd place in the Grand Prix. Kimi Antonelli is going to get the DRS run. It's going to have the run on Liam Lawson down towards turn 1 and has so much more straight line speed. Kimi Antonelli on those fresh tyres. They're up to temperature. Liam Lawson's not up to temperature. And Kimi Antonelli smoothly by Liam Lawson. Fernando Alonso now pits for the Aston Martin team as well. He's going to have a 5-second penalty, remember. So has to serve that 5-second penalty. But Kimi Antonelli now sits the Mercedes in front of Liam Lawson and gets the move through turn 3 without being under too much pressure. So Kimi Antonelli now running effectively 3rd place because Bortoleto, Hadjar, Hamilton, Norris and Tsunoda, as well as his teammate George Russell ahead of him, have not pitted. George Russell, though, going much, much quicker than Kimi Antonelli. So Russell should be ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Just looking at the gap now, Russell is 11 seconds adrift of Verstappen. Antonelli 32 seconds adrift of Verstappen. So actually Antonelli would likely get overtaken by his teammate in the pit stop. So Antonelli effectively running 4th place, realistically. Tsunoda and Norris continue on, even though Charles Leclerc has pitted for the hard compound tyre. Charles Leclerc now about 1.5 seconds off the back of Liam Lawson, still running in some nice clean air. Lando Norris 1.5 seconds off the back of Yuki Tsunoda. Holding on to those tyres. And Max Verstappen, there he is. We haven't actually seen him in what feels like a very long time. Still leading this race. Now a comfortable 7-second lead. And Carlos Sainz still in second spot. 4 seconds the gap between Sainz and Russell. Russell, they're going 0.7 of a second quicker than Carlos Sainz last lap, and George Russell clearly does have the pace advantage, doesn't he? As we watch Alex Albon now fighting with Fernando Alonso, and Alonso, after pitting, is similar, just doesn't quite have those tyres up to temperature yet, I'd imagine. Alex Albon, slight lock-up in towards turn 1. Albon, though, with a 10-second time penalty still to play out. Fernando Alonso has at least given his 5-second penalty back to the stewards and is now on the time that he should be. Lawson podium is no longer on the cards, I'm afraid. No, it's unfortunately like both of the Mercedes cars feel like they have swamped Liam Lawson at this point. I mean, a 5th place finish inside of an RB car is still nothing to sniff at, is it? It's an absolutely ridiculous performance from the RB. But it does look like Russell and Antonelli have both been able to get in front of Liam Lawson throughout this middle part of the Grand Prix. Still 28 laps left to go, though, so never say never for Liam Lawson. Carlos Sainz, though, coming around turn 1, still in second place. George Russell can see the back of the Williams car. And Carlos Sainz still 0.5 of a second slower than George Russell. So Russell closing in on the back of that Williams car. Carlos Sainz is on the medium tyre, remember, so holding onto those medium tyres for a good chunk of time. There was slightly scrubbed set of medium tyres on Carlos Sainz's car as well. Lando Norris on the medium tyres too. Isaac Hadjar in the same boat, but Tsunoda and Hamilton and Bortoleto around them will go that little bit longer. Then we get to Kimi Antonelli, who has pitted for Mercedes. So Antonelli has pitted, Lawson has pitted, Leclerc has pitted. Those 3 running around knowing that a few of the cars in front of them still need to stop. Antonelli also with a nice little bit of 2 seconds worth of gap to Gabriel Bortoleto. Little bit of clean air that you can maybe run into, especially down those long straights towards turn 1. And the real battle is actually coming to be behind Lance Stroll. Hülkenberg having a go at Lance Stroll. Behrman also trying to be opportunistic and move past the German driver. And this is the thing, right? These guys towards the back end of the pack, as we saw with Albon and Colapinto coming to blows, they're still racing one another, and just a little bit of contact between them, and one of these cars in the barriers, safety cars out, red flags fly, and completely changes the complexion of the entire Grand Prix for everybody ahead of them. That's just something that you can't predict, something that you have to try and play around as much as you possibly can. Ollie Behrman, remember, was told that there would be rain around about now during the Grand Prix, but it doesn't seem to have come to fruition. Doesn't really seem to want to rain fully this weekend, does it? We were told yesterday there'd be rain during qualifying, and there was, but it was trickles, and it didn't really stick around to cause any kind of chaos. Kimi Antonelli now closes to within a second of Gabriel Bortoleto. That was a very good lap from Kimi Antonelli. A 145.2 to a 146.6 from Gabriel Bortoleto. Antonelli in a different stratosphere right now to the Stake Sauber car ahead of him, and surely will get past Gabriel Bortoleto sooner rather than later. Where's Piastri? Crashed out, unfortunately. Crashed out lap 1. Turn 5, went too deep, nowhere near the apex, and into the barriers went Oscar Piastri. Our one and only retirement from the Grand Prix so far. Lando Norris then, at the moment, would score 5 points. Shall we have a little look at the championship as we get to the halfway point of this Grand Prix? Doesn't matter too much at the moment. The championship, as it stands, Lando Norris would be 21 points adrift of Oscar Piastri still. So even if Lando Norris scores a 5th place finish here, which would be a pretty good finish from where he is right now, considering there's cars behind him that are going a lot quicker, still 21 points the gap. Just goes to show how much advantage Piastri has and how big that Netherlands Grand Prix result really was, doesn't it? Netherlands Grand Prix playing into the hands of Oscar Piastri massively. And even with a DNF right now from Oscar Piastri, because Lando Norris isn't winning the Grand Prix or even in the podium places, it's still a considerable margin that Piastri has ahead of him. And Nico Hülkenberg once again tries to go for a move on Lance Stroll. And this is where you can be slightly worried if you're one of those cars that has already pitted, because there's a red flag now from these back markers fighting one another as Lance Stroll and Nico Hülkenberg get very close to one another as they go through turn 1. And Hülkenberg even has a little look down towards turn 3 as well. Behrman even trying to get into the back. Verstappen being told over the radio, this is brilliant pace. I mean, he's got not really any pressure on him as Max Verstappen now. He's nearly a 9-second gap to Carlos Sainz behind. I mean, even George Russell, who looks very, very quick, isn't able to match Max Verstappen's times. Verstappen a 145.3, a 145.6 from George Russell. And as I say that, Verstappen comes across the start-finish line to be the first driver into the 144s for today's Grand Prix, a 144.9 from Max Verstappen, the fastest lap of anybody so far today. So we get just over the halfway point of this Grand Prix. 27 laps completed for Verstappen, 25 left to go. Still yet to have pitted, though. Verstappen, Sainz, Russell, Tsunoda, Norris, Hamilton, Hadjar all need to stop. And they are our top 7. Kimi Antonelli, the first of the drivers who have stopped. Antonelli did manage to get past Bortoleto, but Bortoleto has now pitted. So Lawson and Leclerc also move back up into the point scoring places. Bortoleto stops and also falls behind Stroll and Hülkenberg, Behrman and Ocon. Ocon has pitted twice in this Grand Prix so far and has still done 25 laps on those tyres. So we'll likely have to stop again, will Esteban Ocon, unless he's going to try and go for some insane strategy all the way to the end. Bortoleto has unfortunately come out just behind Pierre Gasly there, and that's frustrating. I think they were hoping to get Bortoleto out in that little gap between Ocon and Gasly. But Bortoleto now has to deal with an Alpine car. Medium tyres onto Bortoleto's car, though. Should be able to get past Gasly down towards turn 1 in about half a lap's time. Ten-second gap now between Max and Sainz. There is indeed. Max is putting in fast laps now. I think coming towards the end of those tyres for Max Verstappen, he's been given the go-ahead to just get the final little bit of life out of them. We know that these hard compound tyres as well, sometimes they come back to life again. They kind of dip off in terms of their lap time, and you get the rubber melting off the top. And then once that sort of first layer of rubber has come off fully, you then see the tyres come back to life again. On that note, Carlos Sainz has come into the pits anyway. So we're not going to see Verstappen fall away. I think Verstappen maybe will wait until sort of Russell and Tsunoda have pitted as well. Verstappen just going to wait until he's the last man to pit, possibly, so that he will lead every single lap of this Grand Prix if it plays out how it is right now. Charles Leclerc. Oh, this is interesting. Isaac Hadjar then. In between Sainz and Antonelli. Antonelli 2.5 seconds between Sainz and Antonelli. So Sainz has the pace to keep himself ahead of the Mercedes cars right now and has the tyre advantage as well. This is looking very, very good for Carlos Sainz and those Williams fans. Again, you've got to be thinking of Alex Albon here and being how good Alex Albon has been this year, the amount of 5th place finishes he's got, the amount of point scoring finishes he's got, the fact that he's looking so dominant in the championship when it comes to that best of the rest position. And then Carlos Sainz is just going to swoop in and get the Williams podium that they've been waiting for such a long time. What would it have been? George Russell, the last Williams car on the podium, if you count that. Belgium 2021. It's been a long, long wait for Williams to get a proper podium position on merit throughout a full race. And James Vowles has done some dreamy things there. Let's not talk about it yet, though, because there is still 23 laps left to go, and everything could go wrong for Carlos Sainz. So let's not completely jinx it, but it's looking very, very likely indeed. Gonna have to fight off the two Mercedes cars at some point, though, as Isaac Hadjar is trying to keep Kimi Antonelli at bay and do Carlos Sainz a little bit of a favour here, as Hadjar now 2 seconds behind Carlos Sainz, and Sainz is able to put in a much, much quicker lap time than the two cars behind. Every lap that Kimi Antonelli is stuck behind Isaac Hadjar is a much, much better lap for Carlos Sainz. Hadjar's tyres, 28 laps on a set of medium tyres, 32 laps in total. They were a slightly scrubbed set before starting this Grand Prix. So Hadjar going for some crazy strategy right now. We shouldn't pit before he overtakes me, Hadjar says. So Hadjar maybe actually trying to help out Liam Lawson possibly by just slowing down Kimi Antonelli a touch, and Liam Lawson 3 seconds behind Kimi Antonelli at this point. George Russell, though, looking a lot quicker at this point. George Russell 12 seconds off the lead, so 32 seconds. Yeah, George Russell would come out ahead of Hadjar and Antonelli at this point because Antonelli is losing time behind Isaac Hadjar. So actually George Russell is the front-running Mercedes even once he pits at this point in time. Carlos Sainz has indeed pitted. So Verstappen, Russell, Tsunoda, Norris, Hamilton, our front five at the moment. None of those guys are pitted. Carlos Sainz is the leading pitted car. Isaac Hadjar then in a slot where he doesn't really belong in 7th at the moment, because Antonelli, Lawson, Leclerc have all pitted behind. And there goes Isaac Hadjar into the pits. He really did attack going into the pits. Lawson and Leclerc then make their way past Isaac Hadjar. And Lance Stroll is just coming down towards turn 1 now. The Red Bull team, RB team, sorry, will be hoping that Isaac Hadjar gets a nice clean stop and is still ahead of Lance Stroll. And inside of the point scoring places looks to be good. And yes, indeed, Lance Stroll just slowing down the rest of the field behind has allowed Isaac Hadjar just enough of a spot to get into the pits, out once again. And Isaac Hadjar then 10th place and points almost guaranteed at this point, as Lance Stroll behind still hasn't pitted. Neither has Nico Hülkenberg. Esteban Ocon, the closest car that has pitted during this Grand Prix, but has also done 28 laps on those hard compound tyres. So unlikely to be able to get past Isaac Hadjar, considering Hadjar's tyres have done 1 lap in this Grand Prix. Looking at George Russell's lap times, though, 145.2 from him, and 146.2 from Kimi Antonelli, 145.0 from Carlos Sainz. So Carlos Sainz doing really well here to hold on to that 2nd place. And I think if George Russell does pit soon, he will come out between Carlos Sainz and Kimi Antonelli, as long as George Russell... Oh, there you go. I was going to say George Russell might come in soon, but George Russell on the radio actually saying this tyre feels good. I think just keep extending. Looking at his lap time there, 145.0 from him. Needs to make sure that he is going quicker than Carlos Sainz, really. But then I suppose if he elongates this stretch, the tyre advantage he'll have on Carlos Sainz right at the end will play into his favour. Looking really good for George Russell here for a 2nd place finish. Carlos Sainz likely to finish 3rd as it is right now. Hard tyre pit window open? Yeah, most certainly. Although with the safety car, maybe they'll go a little bit longer. We've seen a couple of the guys on the hard compound tyre come in and pit, but... yeah, it does feel like Verstappen, Russell, Tsunoda, they'll kind of keep going that little bit longer. Lewis Hamilton as well, even though Hamilton 6 seconds adrift of Lando Norris. I think all of those hard compound tyre runners will just go that little bit further because of the safety car. We had 4 laps behind the safety car where they were just nursing those tyres around the circuit. Lawson now under pressure from Leclerc, and it's kind of gone from will Liam Lawson be able to get a podium to sort of how high in the points will he be able to finish, because Charles Leclerc now hunting down the back of that RB car as Ollie Bearman just sets the fastest lap of the race of anybody on a fresh set of medium tyres down in 18th place. So some pace inside of that Haas car on the right tyres at the right time, but not enough pace to really cause anyone else some problems. Ollie Bearman, a 44.6, and not even a point for fastest lap anymore. Certainly not if you're down in 18th. Verstappen is elongating that lead still, though, now 13.5 seconds to George Russell. What on earth happened to Piastri? Crashed out of turn 5 on lap 1, unfortunately for the Australian. But luckily for him, Lando Norris hasn't been able to make too much of that advantage, and the likelihood of scoring points as the McLaren car just isn't really as quick as we thought it was going to be here. It's not moving and shaking the way that we thought. Lando Norris still 2 seconds adrift of Yuki Tsunoda. Norris done 31 laps on those medium tyres. And even if he pits now, Lando Norris, where is he? 21 seconds off the lead. So add 20 seconds or so, would be 41 seconds. He'd still come out behind Charles Leclerc, likely, for Lando Norris. Behind Leclerc and in front of Hadjar. So Lando Norris still running behind Lawson and Leclerc and Antonelli. Can you see the live championship standings? They don't really mean too much. Once the front 5 guys all pit, I'll show you the championship standings then, because at the moment they don't really reflect where people are. Lando Norris is going to fall back behind Leclerc. Hamilton is also going to fall back, possibly behind Leclerc as well. Yeah, because there's a gap between Leclerc and Hadjar, isn't there? So Tsunoda's also going to fall a considerable chunk once they all decide to come in and pit. 51 laps of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, all of which so far have been led by Max Verstappen. It's looking like all 51 are going to be led by Max Verstappen. We're 33 laps in. Verstappen, Russell, Tsunoda, Norris and Hamilton yet to have stopped. Carlos Sainz still leading the drivers who have pitted during this Grand Prix. He is 3 seconds ahead of Kimi Antonelli in 7th place. Antonelli trying to catch up to the back of the Williams car. But I'll tell you what, Carlos Sainz's pace, race pace, has been very, very consistent. And, you know, there's a reason he came out ahead of Kimi Antonelli after the pit stops. Like, his pace, even on those really, really old tyres, was very, very solid indeed. McLaren mechanics, not looking like Lando Norris is going to come in anytime soon. It's such a long time for Lando Norris to have gone onto the medium. Is he going to go onto the softs maybe at the end? We're going to see that from Lando Norris? A complete roll of the dice? Just something very, very different indeed? Possibly. Norris will get the late pit stop again, maybe. I mean, he's going very, very long indeed. It's kind of a who pits first out of these top 5. The thing is, their pace compared to the guys who have pitted is better. Like, Verstappen and Russell are still going quicker than Carlos Sainz. Can Norris win it? Not at all. Not even likely. Still 2 seconds adrift of Yuki Tsunoda in 3rd place, and gonna need to get the run on him, let alone everyone else who they're going to fall behind once they pit. But Lando Norris's lap times are also about a second off Max Verstappen's lap times at the moment as well, or 0.8 of a second off. So Norris's big opportunity is sort of slipping through his fingers. It's not necessarily, well, it is because he qualified where he qualified yesterday, as Lewis Hamilton also gets devilishly close to the turn 15 barrier. In fact, I think there's a little kiss on the Tech Pro. There is indeed just a touch from Lewis Hamilton and the rear right tyre of his Ferrari at turn 15. Charles Leclerc still closing in on Liam Lawson. No DRS for the Scuderia at the moment. Charles Leclerc and Liam Lawson have done exactly the same number of laps on their tyres, actually. Lawson did pit to cover off Leclerc. And nothing at all going on for Max Verstappen as he's now just edging closer and closer to a 14-second lead. 66 career wins for Max Verstappen. One of those coming last weekend in Monza. And a 25-point advantage for Verstappen means he'd go up to 255 points in the Drivers' Championship. I mean, he's still 70 adrift of the lead of the championship, but never say never. 70 points at this point in the season. It's not impossible for Max Verstappen to still win his 5th World Championship. Just very, very, very unlikely. Here comes Alex Albon, looking at the back. Pierre Gasly. Oh my goodness me. And Albon, looking at the back of Esteban Ocon, and Ocon does indeed have to concede as Bortoleto and Hülkenberg also have a little battle with one another. Surely Bortoleto being let through by his teammate. Nico Hülkenberg yet to have pitted in this Grand Prix as well. Pierre Gasly's also gone very, very long indeed. I think a lot of those guys who are maybe hoping for a red flag have now realised that actually it's not going to come when they need it to, and started to fall backwards at this point. Max Verstappen at this point, if he pitted now, would still come out ahead of Yuki Tsunoda at this point. That is how much quicker Max Verstappen has been. The only driver within touching distance, and I don't know if you can call it touching distance when it's 14 seconds, but within a pit stop, let's say, is George Russell. It's been another dominant performance from Verstappen. Stunning from him in qualifying yesterday to be able to deliver in the way that he did. And, you know, people talk about Max Verstappen. Does he do too much? You know, he cares too much about sim racing. He was racing last weekend. Should he have just been resting and focusing on Formula One? But just continues to deliver. You can't really talk about should he have been resting ahead of this weekend rather than racing last weekend when he's still able to deliver this kind of performance week in, week out. An absolute machine at the front of the track. 16 laps between him and his 67th win in Formula One. He's going to get that 100 as well, isn't he? He's closing in on Schumacher and Hamilton ahead in the standings. Hamilton looking unlikely to add to his wins in Formula One at Ferrari at the moment. It's still a long way to go though. 40 to catch up to Lewis Hamilton. 40 wins needed by Verstappen, but still so young in his career. Sort of up to Verstappen whether he wants to hang around long enough to get that, I think. And Lando Norris being told to put his foot down and get a little bit closer to Yuki Tsunoda ahead. Welcome back, 2023, Max Verstappen. Yeah, it does feel very 2023, doesn't it? Comfortable, easy going, elongates the lead when he needs to. Got it up to 14 seconds and has just kind of held it there. Doesn't need to put any more through those tyres. 36 laps completed on that hard set. Has gone beyond where we thought the pit stops would be, but the safety car helping out with that. Here comes Lewis Hamilton into the pits then. So Hamilton is finally going to stop. That's going to release Carlos Sainz back into 5th place. Kimi Antonelli makes his way past as well. Here come Lawson and Leclerc. Hamilton comfortably ahead of Hadjar, but still behind his teammate in 9th place. And we're just waiting for 4 more drivers at the front of the grid to actually stop before we then have a look at how the championship should play out, because it's looking unlikely that anybody's really going to move anywhere. I think the thing is George Russell coming in second behind Verstappen. Carlos Sainz looking most likely at the moment to hold on to third place. And McLaren looking likely to bring Lando Norris in. Nico Hülkenberg finally stops, as he hasn't yet stopped inside of his Stake Sauber car, but not really much to talk about as he's down in 17th place. It's not going to affect the point scoring places too much. This is the thing, really. We want to see where Lando Norris is going to kind of settle in, whether or not he's going to have the pace to be able to do anything about it, because he's still going to be behind Tsunoda. Box for Lando Norris. Here you go, then. So 24 seconds off the lead, add 20 seconds to that. He's going to come out around about Leclerc, Lawson, Hamilton, or between, I'd say between Leclerc and Hamilton is where Lando Norris is going to come out. So he's going to need a little bit something special. It's hard compound tyres. Oh, and it's a slow stop. It's a slow stop. What is going on at McLaren this weekend? A 4.1 second stop. So he is definitely going to come out behind Charles Leclerc. We see Charles Leclerc coming around turn one comfortably now. It would have been a lot closer if Lando Norris would have got a 2-second stop rather than a 4-second stop. But here you go then. Lando Norris down into 8th place. And those 2 seconds, yeah, absolutely critical. And he would have come out, yeah, would have come out ahead of Lawson. Wow. Wow. We'll have to watch that pit stop again, but that is heartbreak for Lando Norris once more. That's meant that he's come out in 8th place rather than a possible 6th place. And the points difference that he'd have got there and the advantage that he'd have had, the fact that he might have been able to dream of a chance at fighting Kimi Antonelli at some point. To the front right, possibly, we're looking at. Here you go. Lando Norris comes in. Yeah, front right tyre just wouldn't quite go on. Tyre's gone on, but the wheel nut wasn't fully tight. And you could see the front right. Oh, that's a couple of weekends in a row now. Lando Norris losing all the luck when it comes to pit stops. Here comes Yuki Tsunoda. Thought that might be Max Verstappen. Whew. It is not. It's Yuki Tsunoda. In and out. Carlos Sainz back up into the podium places then for Williams. And looking absolutely brilliant from Carlos Sainz this weekend. Tsunoda's coming around the corner. Here comes Lawson and Leclerc. And Tsunoda has got the jump on them. Really well done from Yuki Tsunoda, just ahead of Liam Lawson. But here comes Lawson then, DRS wide open down towards turn 3. It's going to be the battle between Lawson and Tsunoda, and Lawson is going to get it done. Tsunoda then, those tyres not quite up to temperature. Lawson able to take advantage of it. Tsunoda then just ahead of Charles Leclerc at the moment. Lando Norris down into 8th place now, and at the back of this real long pack. So it's just Verstappen and Russell yet to pit, but it feels like Verstappen and Russell will finish where they are. So let's have a little look at the championship as it stands then. What these points will mean. Lando Norris at the moment just 4 points gained on a weekend where Oscar Piastri DNF'd, and he could have closed the gap considerably. He will still be over a win's worth of points behind his teammate. 27 points behind Oscar Piastri, and a huge hurdle still to jump for Lando Norris going into the final few races of the season. Max Verstappen, 255 points, cements 3rd place surely at this point in the year. George Russell up into 212. Both of those guys up into the 200-point scorings. Leclerc gaining 6, Hamilton gaining 2. Antonelli would re-jump ahead of Alex Albon as it stands right now. Albon back down into 8th place. Sainz would also jump 6 places up into 12th as it stands right now. That would be huge for Carlos Sainz and huge for Williams, as they would also go over the 100-point margin. That's right. Williams would score over 100 points in this Formula One season with still a good chunk of races to go. So that is a absolutely brilliant return from the Williams team if Carlos Sainz can finish on the podium places. And Racing Bulls would also jump up into 6th place as Aston Martin 0 points scored, 11 for the Racing Bulls team as it stands right now, as Max Verstappen is going to box. So let's get back to it. Max Verstappen boxing from the lead of this Grand Prix. George Russell has also boxed. I think Max Verstappen just wanting to lead every single lap of this race. Just waiting until everybody else pitted behind. Verstappen's going to pit, come back out in the lead. George Russell comes out ahead of Carlos Sainz as we expected. 2nd place, Carlos Sainz in 3rd. A 1.6 second gap between Sainz and Antonelli. And then Liam Lawson, 7 seconds adrift, is now under pressure from Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton has also just put in the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far on those medium tyres that he's got. Hamilton maybe will be able to come into this battle with Lawson, Tsunoda, Leclerc, Norris, all within touching distance. It's not over and done with for those guys yet. Carlos Sainz will be under pressure from Antonelli. Lawson will be under pressure from Tsunoda. Lando Norris is now right under the rear wing of the Ferrari, has the tyre advantage, is going to be able to get side by side with Charles Leclerc and moves up a position. Lando Norris up into 7th place. Gains some more points on his teammate, a couple more points in the bag then for Lando Norris if he can finish where he is right now. It's going to be a tough ask though. There's a lot on the line for Lando Norris this weekend. Will he be able to get in front of Tsunoda and maybe even Lawson? Fresh hard tyres on Lando Norris's car, slightly scrubbed set on Tsunoda, and Lawson has gone a long way on those hard compound tyres ahead. So Lando Norris, there's a 5th place up for grabs here for Lando Norris if he can really put together these final 10 laps. In terms of the constructor standings as well, we didn't mention, but Mercedes would move ahead of Ferrari at the moment, as Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton will get 6 points between them. George Russell 18 points, Antonelli 12, so 30 points for the Mercedes team at the moment on the board. And George Russell came into the pits so incredibly hot. Wow. Hits the pit limiter, hits his marks. It's a really good stop from the Mercedes team for George Russell. And made sure that he got out in front of Carlos Sainz. George Russell getting everything absolutely spot on. And George Russell's pace today has been really, really good, has to be said. Just a shame that he kind of lost the position down behind Yuki Tsunoda towards the beginning of the race, because we might have even been able to see Russell fighting for the lead here, but Carlos Sainz on the radio. Russell on fresher tyre with the pace. Carlos Sainz saying, leave it to me. He's 2.8 seconds behind, but I think Carlos Sainz knows at this point he's not going to be able to gain that 3 seconds on George Russell and be able to get past him. So settling in for a 3rd place finish in a Williams. It's not too shabby, Alonso, though, is it? If he manages to finish in 3rd place, Carlos Sainz this weekend. Kimi Antonelli in 4th place. 1.3 seconds the gap. Antonelli on slightly older hard compound tyres, though, so it does play into Carlos Sainz's favour a touch. And then Liam Lawson, 7.5 seconds behind, so even if Carlos Sainz does lose a position... Oh, reports of rain at turn 16. Alex Albon says over the radio, reports of rain at turn 16. Is it all gonna come to a crescendo here? Let's see then. Just watching Liam Lawson coming around towards turn 15. How heavy is this rain through turn 16 then? Can't see it coming down too much. No, it's not. Not anything worth shouting about. There goes Liam Lawson. Yuki Tsunoda fighting him for 5th place, and Lando Norris frustrated that Yuki Tsunoda is still within DRS range of the RB, because Lando Norris trying his best to get past the Japanese driver sooner rather than later. Tsunoda versus Lawson. Here comes Tsunoda then on Lawson. Lawson goes to the left-hand side of the track to cover him off and is able to keep that position for now. Lewis Hamilton, though, has just moved in front of Charles Leclerc. Where's Charles Leclerc in all of this? Leclerc's fallen off of a cliff. Leclerc was just behind Lando Norris, but Leclerc's tyres may be just completely and utterly done. Hamilton moves ahead of his teammate. Wow. Charles Leclerc then, I think, actually letting his teammate by. Hamilton up into 8th place, and a big tyre delta between Hamilton and Leclerc, but wasn't expecting it to happen that soon. Maybe Hamilton is thinking about moving into the possibility of fighting for these top-end point-scoring places. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Could be a nice little battle between Lawson, Tsunoda, Norris and Hamilton to play into the final part of this Grand Prix. Lando Norris DRS to Tsunoda. Tsunoda DRS to Lawson. Lawson holding everyone up, so Hamilton has the opportunity to close the gap. Hamilton 2 seconds adrift of Lando Norris. You can see the Ferrari in the background as the 3 cars come around to turn 16. Lawson still leading the trio. Tsunoda will have the DRS once again, though, to the RB car ahead of him. They swapped positions at the beginning of the season after Liam Lawson only got 2 races inside of that main Red Bull team. Will they swap positions here in Azerbaijan, or can Liam Lawson hold on to the top spot? Tsunoda has a look once again. DRS is open. Lando Norris also closing up to the back of Yuki Tsunoda. Nothing doing for anybody at the moment, with 8 laps left to play out here in Azerbaijan. The DRS is open for all of them once again. Lando Norris closing into the back of Tsunoda once more. Tsunoda not really that close to the back of Liam Lawson at the moment. Lawson was able to get the jump on Tsunoda after the pit stops. And Tsunoda hasn't been able to rebuttal as of yet. On the fresher tyres, though, is Yuki Tsunoda. Has those medium compound tyres to Liam Lawson's 24-lap-old hard compound tyres. They were a slightly scrubbed set, so Lawson has done 23 laps on those tyres during today's Grand Prix. George Russell, 12.5 seconds adrift of Verstappen. 4.5 seconds to Sainz, another 2 seconds to Antonelli. Antonelli really hasn't been able to close that gap, and Carlos Sainz's tyre advantage is looking like the top 3 positions are locked in place. Kimi Antonelli is going to come home to a maybe slightly disappointing 4th place, considering the pace that George Russell has had, but still a very solid point-scoring place for Kimi Antonelli. It's behind where the action is happening. Lawson, Tsunoda and Norris. Here they come around turn 16 once again. Tsunoda a little bit closer than he was last time around. About 0.6 of a second between Tsunoda and Lawson. Another 0.6 of a second to Lando Norris behind as well. Here we go then. 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th place Lewis Hamilton is also joining the pack. He's a 1.5 seconds off the back of Lando Norris. Tsunoda, though, weaving around, trying to find a gap. Lawson covers to the inside of the track, and Lawson covers the inside of turn 1. Yuki Tsunoda can't make the move this time around. Down towards turn 2, I don't think Yuki Tsunoda is quite underneath the rear wing of Lawson enough. Maybe, though, has opened the door to Lando Norris. Norris has the DRS as well as Yuki Tsunoda. Norris looks up to the inside of turn 3, not able to go for a move, though. And Lando Norris knows that those points are agonizingly close. 6 points on the board now for Lando Norris at the moment. Looking at the championship, it means that Lando Norris would go on to 299 and be exactly 1 win's worth of points, 25 points behind Oscar Piastri as it stands. If he can get himself within a win's worth of points, within 25 points though, if he can move up just 1 position, be absolutely massive for the championship and huge for Lando Norris's chances of winning it. Driver of the day vote. Surely has to be Max Verstappen. Love to know your guys' thoughts, though, in the comments. Who is your driver of the day? Could maybe go for George Russell. Possibly Carlos Sainz as well. Any of the top three. It's been very, very solid indeed. Liam Lawson has done a solid job as well. I think, you know, the fact that he's fallen down a couple of places from where he started, but those couple of places are two Mercedes cars that have been able to get past. And Lewis Hamilton being complimentary of the three ahead, saying that they're very fast, but is almost within DRS range. Lewis Hamilton is closing in. Very, very close is Lewis Hamilton, but not quite within DRS yet. Watches Lawson, Tsunoda and Norris continue round again. Lawson still holding on to 5th place with 6 laps left of racing to go. Tsunoda getting frustrated now. That Racing Bulls car needing the points in the Constructors' Championship, trying to get ahead of Aston Martin. And put in a little bit of a gap between them and Aston Martin, knowing that Aston Martin will come back at them. Some tracks coming up where it does feel like Aston Martin will be able to score points. The Racing Bulls car, though, does feel like the fastest of the midfield cars generally at the moment. Hadjar and Lawson both putting in very, very solid performances. Hadjar, come on. Hadjar 4.5 seconds off Leclerc. I don't think that's quite going to happen, to be honest with you. But you never know. He was a half a second quicker than Charles Leclerc last lap. Maybe he can do it. Sainz 100% deserves driver of the day. Driver of the weekend. I think driver of the day and driver of the weekend. Driver of yesterday has to be Max Verstappen. And then today it's just been cool, calm, collected, hasn't it? You can maybe argue it was a little bit too easy for him. Here you go then. Lewis Hamilton has indeed joined the fight. Tsunoda has fallen away from the back of Liam Lawson. Tsunoda's not going to be able to make the move, but still has the DRS. And this is the frustration for Lando Norris, is Tsunoda is doing nothing at all here, but is just keeping to within that DRS range of Liam Lawson. So Lawson is able to hold on to 5th place. Tsunoda's able to hold on to 6th just because he's got the DRS to the car in front. And now Lewis Hamilton has been able to catch up to the back of this pack because Liam Lawson's pace is not electrifying at the moment. Lewis Hamilton going much better on those fresh medium tyres. Lando Norris on the hard compound tyre ahead of him. So a little bit of a battle between those two as to see if the hard compound tyre at the end of this race or the medium compound tyre at the end of this race is the optimal strategy. Lawson driver of the day. Yeah, I could see that most certainly. Done a very, very good job. As I say, the only two drivers that have been able to get the advantage over him are the two Mercedes cars, and both of the Mercedes have shown some real solid pace throughout this Grand Prix. George Russell in particular, I think, has been very, very good. And it's just been able to get those lap times in exactly when he needed to. Even if he wasn't given the advantage to try and get past Liam Lawson, like earlier on in the Grand Prix, if George Russell hadn't been pushed wide by Antonelli, and then when he caught up to the back of Antonelli had been given the go-ahead to go past him, would he been able to close in 14 seconds? Possibly not, but I think he'd be a lot closer to Max Verstappen than he is right now. There's a few things that have played against George Russell, and he's still been able to contend with them, get over them, and put in some very, very fast laps when needed. Saying that, Kimi Antonelli a 1.5 seconds behind Carlos Sainz. We're looking at Lawson again. Tsunoda trying to close in behind. Lando Norris has a little look at the Red Bull. Not happening this time around. And Hamilton has indeed joined the DRS train behind Liam Lawson. Tsunoda just hasn't got the pace, unfortunately, for Lando Norris and Ferrari fans, because Norris and Hamilton are quicker than Liam Lawson, but Tsunoda is causing the headache by just being in between. Cool, calm and collected from Liam Lawson, making sure he doesn't make any kind of mistakes. Tsunoda, the frustration behind is that he's giving it everything that he's possibly got. Lando Norris using every single little bit of his battery to hold on and try his best to just gain even the tiniest of advantages to Yuki Tsunoda, but Tsunoda has the DRS, so the DRS is negated. Lando Norris knows that Lewis Hamilton is now behind as well, so can't do anything too crazy. And Lando Norris still 7th place, 6 points on the board for him. As I say, goes to within 25 of his teammate. Gonna get the blue flags. Yeah, indeed. Max Verstappen catching up to the back of the two Alpines. The Alpines in a straight line, just absolutely horrendous. In a straight line, aren't they? And Lando Norris once again isn't able to get past Tsunoda. Tsunoda once again isn't able to get past Lawson. It feels like this battle that could have been a bit of a crescendo for the race is playing out into a little bit of nothingness. Regardless of if George was given track position over Kimi, he still wouldn't have challenged Max. Oh no, most certainly not. Yeah. He wouldn't have challenged Max, but that gap would have been a little bit nicer for him. It wouldn't have been a 14 seconds. But yeah, George Russell is... That's what I mean, though. George Russell has still been able to optimize where he finishes and is still 5 seconds ahead of Carlos Sainz, even with all of the issues that he had and even with all of the hurdles that he did have to jump over throughout the Grand Prix. So I'm impressed with George's ability to just sort of keep his head down and perform, even when it was tricky for him to do so. Lando Norris, though, still behind Yuki Tsunoda. It would be 299 points on the board for Lando Norris if the race finished as it is right now, with 2 laps left to go. So Lando Norris, 25 points adrift of Oscar Piastri would where he would slot in. Exactly 1 win's worth of points. And you always need to be within that 25. As long as you're within that 25, particularly, obviously, going towards the final 2-3 races of the season, if Lando Norris can keep himself within 25, it will go all the way to Abu Dhabi. Martin Garrix, DJ and recording producer, ready with the racing checkered flag. Max Verstappen is still a lap and a half away from finishing this Grand Prix, and Yuki Tsunoda, DRS once again to Liam Lawson. Down towards turn 3 they go, and nothing happening. So it's going to be now or never for Tsunoda, Norris and Hamilton to make any kind of move here behind Liam Lawson. Lawson has done a stellar job of just positioning that RB car perfectly and making sure that Yuki Tsunoda couldn't get past. We get through the middle part of the track once again. Nothing doing through here. It's a very narrow part of the circuit, this second sector. Come up the hill through turns 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. Round 13, 14. Here comes Liam Lawson. Turn 15 is so crucial. You've got to get that perfect. Then you launch yourself down towards turn 16. And then 16 is where it all happens. Making sure that you get the right traction out of there. Get yourself in a position where Tsunoda can't get within touching distance. Max Verstappen, though, fastest lap of the Grand Prix from the Dutchman. Just to make sure everyone knows how fast he really is. Fastest lap of the race, led every single lap, had pole position. It's a pretty perfect weekend. Here comes Tsunoda then, defending from Lando Norris. Norris does have a little look up the inside. Can't go around the outside, though. Tsunoda. Lando Norris trying so hard to get past Yuki Tsunoda, trying every little trick in the book. But Tsunoda able to just close off that gap. Here comes Lando Norris then, up the inside of turn 3. No, isn't close enough. Track watching his teammate go past. Stuck behind the midfield cars. But here comes Max Verstappen then. We haven't focused on him much throughout the Grand Prix. He's 14, nearly 15 seconds ahead of George Russell in second place. Waited until everybody pitted, slotted himself into the pit lane just at the right time, and takes the win here in Baku. Max Verstappen, his 67th win in Formula 1 and back-to-back wins. Lauren McKees, take a bow. Red Bull, back-to-back winners in Formula 1 once again. George Russell then comes home in second place. A very, very solid race from George Russell to come home in second. Carlos Sainz takes a podium place for Williams. Kimi Antonelli then comes home in fourth. Liam Lawson looks set in for fifth place. Here he comes, Liam Lawson across the line. Then Tsunoda and Lando Norris in seventh place. Hamilton in eighth. Charles Leclerc in ninth. And Isaac Hadjar, the final points scoring place. Alex Albon is actually running around in 11th after pitting at the right time. The Williams car had the pace there, but 10-second penalty for Alex Albon is also going to be applied after he comes past the checkered flag. Bortoleto and Behrman in 12th place and 13th place, squabbling for it behind. But Verstappen on the radio. A stunning drive from him. Bortoleto and Behrman within 10 seconds of Alex Albon. So Alex Albon, as I thought, does fall down to 13th place. Ocon then comes across the line 14th. Alonso comes across the line 15th. Hulkenberg 16th place. It's going to be Lance Stroll who comes around in 17th. Gasly and Colapinto have already finished as they were lapped by Max Verstappen. Verstappen comes around to celebrate another win in Formula 1 and a well-deserved win considering the race that he had to put in and the qualifying he had to put in yesterday. Let's face it, Max Verstappen won it on Saturday, but a very, very solid race from him. And then if we look at the championship very quickly before we go, Oscar Piastri still leads it, of course. He leads by 25 points to Lando Norris in second spot. Only the 6 points for Lando Norris today. Verstappen 25 moves up to 255. Russell up into 212. Very happy indeed with a second place finish. Has to be George Russell. Don't know if he could have done much more than there. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton both score points for Ferrari, but as you can see, Ferrari do slot behind a Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes now 4 points ahead of the Scuderia. Kimi Antonelli also moves himself back up into 7th place in the standings, 8 points ahead of Alex Albon, who scores no points today. Isaac Hadjar gets 1 point on the board in 9th place and stays where he is. Williams consolidate 5th place. They move over the 100-point margin. 101 points for Williams now in the Constructors' Championship. RB, with Liam Lawson scoring those points, move up into 6th place. They're now 10 points ahead of Aston Martin, who slot down into 7th. On that note, Carlos Sainz moves up 6 places into 12th place in the Drivers' Championship. He's now on 31 points, just 1 point behind Lance Stroll and 1 point ahead of Liam Lawson. Lawson also gaining 10 points up into 30, means he moves ahead of Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon as well. Alonso, Ocon, Gasly all move down 2 positions. Yuki Tsunoda gaining 8 points, moves him up into 17th place, and that's about it, as Bortoleto and Behrman also move back to 18th and 19th place. Goodness gracious me, it has changed the championship a considerable amount, hasn't it? Flipping heck, that was a hell of a Grand Prix, and what a weekend for Formula 1. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you are a member, I'll be live in for 4 or 5 minutes. Just let me quickly set up for the members only live stream post race show. If you want to come over and join us for that, we have a little chat about the podium ceremony and how all of the cars got on throughout this Grand Prix. What a race weekend it was. Couple of weekends now until we are back with the Singapore Grand Prix weekend on the 4th and 5th of October. Thank you guys so much again. I will see you very, very soon.